Hi, and welcome back to another Lake Mead and Colorado River Watch update. Here are your highlights for March 2023. We head into the spring season this year with many mountains full of snow and many smaller reservoirs near capacity. Some viewers have asked if all these extreme weather events have been impacting the drought conditions at the lake. Unfortunately, neither Mead nor Powell will be much affected by all this, but we'll touch on why in just a bit. It has been a record-setting rain and snowfall start to this year for many regions in the West, a welcome reprieve from the nagging drought and aridification of the past 20 years. But 1 year of flood cannot solve 20 years of famine. Or can it? Let's see. In our Mead Minute from February, I covered some of the massive flooding events occurring in California since the start of the new year. I mentioned that Lake Cachuma, just outside Santa Barbara, was set to spill for the first time in 12 years. Well, soon after releasing that video, Cachuma did indeed spill after receiving record floodwaters from the surrounding areas. In fact, during a 3-week period starting in January, parts of California received almost half of their normal precipitation for the entire year, allowing other reservoirs throughout the state like Oroville and Shasta to recover. So what does this have to do with Lake Mead and the Colorado River? Well, we're going to find out very shortly that every drop counts, no matter where it comes from or how it's used. Before we do that, let's head back to Mead and recap what's been going on upstream lately. Nevada, Arizona, and the upper basin states have all been receiving their fair share of rain and snow from these same fronts. Looking at Las Vegas, we can see in January alone the unusually high amounts of moisture that came in with the new year. For viewers that missed it, you can see some footage of the snow around the Vegas Valley in our video here I'll leave a link to below. The higher elevations around Charleston Peak and the Spring Mountain Range have repeatedly been doused with heavy accumulations of snow. A deadly avalanche was even recorded that tragically took the life of a backcountry skier near Mummy Mountain there. The snowfall around the greater Las Vegas Valley was so heavy that I-15, the main artery to Southern California, and Highway 160 west to Pahrump were both closed to traffic at times, as crews battled to clean up critical routes before another front moved in. Down at the lake, there have been several rain and severe wind events throughout the month, but how much have they really impacted the reservoir? Let's take a look. Starting off the month of March and heading into the spring season, Mead is showing a first week average around 1,047 feet above sea level, which is 29% full, and Powell is showing 3,521 feet above sea level at 23% full. Compare that to the water levels at the same time over the last several years on screen here, and you can see neither of the larger reservoirs have felt much impact despite all the widespread rain, flooding, and snow out west. Of course, some of the spring melt is yet to come for the upper basin, but factoring in delivery responsibilities to the lower basin and the USBR withholding water in Powell to remedy the piping issues, predictions show Lake Mead draining even further as we progress throughout this year. In order to better understand how the spring melts and the dam releases affect the reservoir levels, a new data set I'd like to introduce is the average high water date. In short, we're going to look at the date that the lake was at its highest mark each year, then average those dates over 20 years. This way, we can all see how the yearly water supply cycles, filling with spring melts and inflows, and emptying with summer drought and downstream releases. Let's pop up on screen here the last 20 years of data for Lake Mead. You can see we have recorded high water levels between dates ranging from December through March. I converted these into Julian days, then averaged them, with a result of 45.65, which equates to the afternoon of February 14th. So for the last 20 years, Lake Mead has averaged its highest level around Valentine's Day. This is going to help illustrate the fact that despite all the rain and snow in the region lately, Lake Mead on average would have already seen its high water level, even in the more plentiful years. Couple this with the increased demand for outflow that will begin soon as the hotter months approach, and not much change is anticipated long-term as far as remedy from drought at Mead. In fact, the baseline loss this year is estimated to be around another 20 feet, which would once again bring the reservoir to a historic low somewhere around 1,020 feet above sea level. On the other hand, Lake Powell will be kept on life support with any available spring floods, while the USBR hastily tries to find an agreeable solution to the outdated plumbing issues. If left unchecked, These piping problems could end up cutting off the entire lower basin's water supply should Powell drop to dead pool. If you are interested in learning more about Lake Powell and Glen Canyon Dam, I did a deep dive into the reclamation project that you can watch here. I'll put a link below in the description. So the record rainfall and spring melts this year could very well still turn a trend for Powell, and we may see its water level rise in coming months, but this will mainly be due to the USBR withholding water in Powell instead of sending it downstream to Mead. Of course, as mentioned before, every drop counts, and everything we are seeing is good so far. This has simply bought us some precious time to find more concrete solutions, which is precisely where the California reservoirs come back into play. You see, many of these reservoirs in the Central Valley would seem independent from the Colorado River system, as California relies heavily on their State Water Project, or SWP, which draws water from the snowpack further north in the Sierras and distributes it throughout the state. However, in times of low rainfall and snowpack, prolonged drought, or increased demands, the Colorado River allotment is the SWP's insurance policy. The SWP will then draw on the Colorado River water allotment to supplement delivery needs to southern cities like Los Angeles, San Diego, and also Santa Barbara, home of Lake Cachuma, which was shown overflowing with floodwater earlier. So now you will begin to see the link in all this. Instead of the region storing all its water for later use and relying less on the Colorado River allotment, the overflow in Cachuma is released under the guise of refilling underground aquifers on a short trip back to the ocean. Come summer, when population centers in California are draining the SWP supply, lower seniority regions like Santa Barbara will be forced to draw down the Colorado River water once again, placing a strain on Mead, Powell, and everything upstream. It cannot be understated how much the entire state of California relies on imported water, whether it be from another part of the state or another part of the country. This should help to illustrate the reasons behind why all the recent snowpack and precipitation in the Southwest seemingly makes little to no difference in our drought conditions or major reservoir levels. We certainly can look at what nature has given us lately with optimism, only to be met with pessimism after seeing how humans squander away the opportunities and fail to react accordingly, with many in current leadership roles actively choosing their profits and major donors over our resources. It seems we don't have a supply problem at all, but rather a demand problem, as we've demanded so much of the Colorado River over the centuries and have never given second thought to taking a bit more. All this happens as the U.S. Drought Monitor now reports parts of California will be taken off drought designation due to the recent heavy storms, while we simultaneously watch Lake Mead upstream begin its march down to a new all-time low. Perhaps it's time we use this small opportunity to reverse the trend as best we can, instead of water managers feigning amnesia over the issue for another 20 years as soon as it rains. How do you all think this can be accomplished? Do you think nature will ever again give us as much as we continually demand? Do you think the poor leadership and wasteful water districts are accountable? Let us know in the comments below. We want to thank all of you Colorado River watchers out there for joining us in this episode. Your suggestions and ideas are integral in helping us solve these issues together, and to be the voice of the river in these trying times. Stay tuned as we work on new short-form updates for all of you on the go, and check out an adventure episode in the meantime to see more of the beautiful desert Southwest. Remember to stay hydrated, stay happy out there, and we'll see you next update.